Well, welcome back to Smart Life. I am Dr. Gina, and we are so glad you choose to be with us today. The global warming debate keeps raging, and actually, it's been pretty much debunked, it seems to me, in most places, but they keep changing the terms. Global warming, climate change, climate disruption. Well, Townhall Finance editor John Ransom has been on top of this, and he is getting fed up with the federal government blowing all of our money on fighting this myth called global warming when it has been disproven again and again. John Ransom, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Gina. So I've got this rash on my left knee, just below the kneecap.
Lovely,
What
lovely.
would you recommend to put on it?
It's from global warming, and I think the answer for everything out of the left these days is probably just make a law. Make a law about it. Make it so that rashes beneath the knee are illegal, and all the problems will be solved. How did this just become an advice show? John, not only do we have tax money being blown on green programs, we have the government blocking the Keystone pipelines. These are real jobs that we could create. John, what do you think about all of this?
Well, one of the things that they're talking about is that, at a time when really unemployment is not going down, despite what you see from the headline number, the labor force, as even the Federal Reserve will admit, is in probably the worst shape that it's been in since the Great Depression. The administration is continuing kind of their assault on American jobs by insisting that they use sources of energy that frankly don't work. We have, 4 or 5 years ago, we did not know how much energy that we had in this country. When we said drill, baby, drill, Obama responded by saying, well, we can't drill our way out of this problem. Well, guess what? 4 or 5 years later, we can drill our way out of this problem, and the United States can be a net exporter of energy, and along the way create about 15 trillion, that's 15 trillion with a T, trillion dollars worth of extra GDP, and about 10 million jobs if we would just tap those sources of energy. But Obama's got a problem. He believes in the global warming religion, and it's not just the global warming religion. It's a religion that feeds the government and government control of everything that happens in our life.
Are there estimates to what this big green lie has ultimately ended up costing Americans?
That's an interesting question, and I think the estimates vary depending on who you're talking to, which industry that you're talking to. Here in the United States, it's not quite as bad as it is maybe in Europe. And let me just give you one example. Basically what happens is the economies are dislocated in Europe and the economies are dislocated here in the United States when they put these mandates on that really force people's behavior into really unintended consequences. And I'll give you an example that's happening over in Europe. For example, Europe has decided that 20% of all electricity has to be generated by some sort of a renewable source. And so when you think about that, you think of things like solar and windmills and all of the unicorn and pixie dust stuff that the liberals talk about. The fact of the matter is that the number one renewable source of energy for power plants today is, in Europe, wood. Wood makes up the majority of fuel that they use in order to comply with that mandate that 20% of power come from some sort of a renewable source. Mm-hmm. And it continues to, not only is it a non-fossilized fuel, it is renewable, but it's awfully dirty. And, the truth of the matter is we need more trees, probably not fewer trees. And so even when they try to accomplish the things they say that they want to accomplish, the technology isn't there. We're not there where we can actually turn over our economy to these sources of energy. And so we're going to have to come up with lies and stratagems. And at the end of the day, they're going to be at cross purposes with the very things that liberals say they're going to try to accomplish.
I just had Tamara Holder on the show. We talked about the Veterans Administration scandal. She traditionally is on the left, but she agrees that this is absolutely scandalous. But you, John, in Townhall Finance, you call it madness. Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, they talked about Obama being very, very mad about this. That's the word that McDonough used from the White House chief of staff. On the TV talk shows over the weekend, he said he's madder than hell about the whole thing. And I think he is, and I think the reason why is because he's seeing that liberals are starting to abandon him, and they're abandoning him with an eye on two things: 2014 midterm elections. I think as much as anything are going to be a rejection of the direction that the Democrats have gone under the leadership of Obama, but they're also abandoning them for 2016 elections with this idea that they're going to say, we have the right ideas, we're very compassionate, we care about the people that we say we care about. We just had the wrong guy who couldn't execute on those promises. And gosh, if we just had somebody like Hillary Clinton, remember the old days with Bill and Hillary Clinton and how great everything was. And I think that's kind of the media strategy and the political strategy that Democrats are going to be following from now until the election is over in 2016.
Just about every time I have the listening ear of someone outside of California here in the United States, I remind them that as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. And a lot of that starts in LA. And you wrote in Townhall Finance that LA could just pretty much go away. It's that bad. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is that if you don't live in Los Angeles, you don't really think about Los Angeles very much. When you think about traditional things that come out of Los Angeles, you think about, movie pictures and things like that. A lot of that filming is done outside of the city, frankly, now. It's not quite the entertainment capital of the world that used to be. And, I think the thing is that, when you think about great leaders in the country, the mayor of Los Angeles used to be set up to become governor of California, and governor of California certainly could become president of the United States. That no longer really works that way. Most people could not today say who the mayor of Los Angeles was any more than they could say that, who's the mayor of Dubuque, Iowa. And I think it's, LA is a big city without a real lot of significance. It's a city without a purpose. It can't even, for example, being the second largest TV market, it can't even get a football team there.
Yeah, it's pretty dismal when I look at the numbers that you gave in this post here at Townhall Finance. But the reality is that Hollywood has gone elsewhere, as you said. They're making movies in other places, which is really sad because the apparatus, the infrastructure in Hollywood is there to make movies, and they have to go recreate sets in other states. And sort of reinvent the complete wheel to be able to produce movies in other states, but it's still cheaper, partly because of unions, that's true, but also partly because the disincentives from overregulation and taxation. I know Tim Donnelly, candidate for governor, is one of the most huge advocates. He's got a bill called Bring Hollywood Home. I interviewed Rob Schneider, one of Donnelly's supporters, who we of course know from all of the Adam Sandler movies, and he told me straight up he hasn't made a movie in Hollywood, I think he said, in something like 11 years. It was a shockingly long time. And the major film actors I talked to, they don't make movies anymore in Los Angeles. So what happens if Los Angeles continues to crumble and California continues to be in such decline?
Well, if you get outside of, the tech corridor of, say, San Francisco, which is really thriving, I mean, I would have fears that, California would be kind of in the same shape that Detroit would be, because, it's certainly San Francisco. They've got a lot of high-wage jobs. They've got a great economy there. It's a very unique place. Outside of that, San Diego probably produces quite a bit, but without San Francisco kind of picking up the slack for the rest of the state, I mean, I fear that, they would be at the point where, say, Illinois is, where Illinois, at one point was more than 90 days behind on its bills. It just couldn't pay its bills, and creditors were cutting it off, and they've had to do some very draconian things in Illinois, including raising corporate income taxes by like 67%, doing a temporary increase on personal income by like 40%. All of these apparently were temporary measures, but now the Democrats are working on making them permanent. And what it's turned into is that of all of the places that people want to leave in the United States, Illinois is like number one now.
Well, I don't know. People are leaving California in droves, and the debt here is something horrendous as well. But John Ransom, folks can find all of your work at Townhall Finance, and also can check you out where else?
Check us out at Townhall Finance or townhall.com.
All right, awesome. John, thank you so much for being with us today.